work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
All right, welcome. Glad you are with us. We're going to have war correspondent, former military guy, and war correspondent Michael Yawn on. Is America about to enter a multi-year internal war? Are we headed for a multi-year internal war? Now, again, folks, last night I did a full hour and a half with Trevor Loudon. An hour and a half with Trevor Loudon. And last night, Trevor and I went through a manual that we went through 5 years ago together. But here's the interesting thing. This manual has so much more relevance now than it did 5 years ago. And it was a manual that was put out by the United States Army in 2016. I'm sure it's been around for a while, and then they revised it. And it is a ladder. It's a stair-step ladder of maybe like 21, 22 stages for insurrection. And so many of them, folks, have come to pass and are coming to pass now. I urge you to go to worldviewtube.com. I'm sure it's there by now, right, Logan? The full hour and a half from last night, and tweet it, text it, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, post it everywhere. One of my friends who's in his early 80s, he is an avid reader. He's a very avid reader, very, very tuned in to what's happening because he is a reader. And he understands it in the context of history and worldviews and biblical Christianity and Bible prophecy. He's very well read, one of my friends here in the Mid-South. His wife was talking to my wife this morning and said that her husband watched last night and said, that hour and a half helps me better understand what is happening in the country. And that's coming from a guy that's extremely well read, very up on Christian worldview, history, as I said. And even he, with all of his knowledge and background and understanding, said, wow, looking at that military manual by the U.S. Army from 2016 on unrestricted warfare, actually unconventional warfare is the name of it, unconventional warfare, and seeing those steps helps me understand how deliberate this is, how staged this is. This is highly orchestrated. Now, yesterday, as well as again last night, Trevor Loudon's saying, look, you got the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. That's a Maoist group involved here. And then you got Mexico heavily involved. The Federalist, if you go over to worldviewreport.com, worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site, worldviewreport.com, you will see an article that I've posted over there about Mexico. And I think it comes from, here it is. Mexico is complicit in the LA riots, and there should be consequences. This is from the Federalist. Of course, we know Mexico is basically a drug cartel narco state. And very few people have been, I don't know, shall I say, other than maybe like Michael Yawn, Todd Bensman, a few others, Annie Cyrus. Very few people have been interested in talking with me about Mexico as much as I've wanted to talk about it. You guys have noticed over the years, radio and TV, I keep bringing up Mexico, and, Islamic folks in Mexico, China's biggest trading partner, Mexico's biggest trading partner is China. And I kept trying to talk about this over the last several years, saying, I'm really concerned that Mexico is an enemy state, and we're not treating Mexico as what it is. It's a narco enemy state that's in business with China, who provides the precursor chemicals for their fentanyl that they run into America. And don't think for 1 minute that the cartels that are heavily armed up with military hardware that they show off every time they can, that this is not going to be a massive problem for our country. But everybody seems to want to talk about the Middle East, which I'm fine talking about the Middle East. But that's over there. Everybody's busy talking about Iran. I'm fine. We'll talk about Iran. But that's over there. Mexico is a narco state in partnership with China and run by drug cartels. I don't care what the president of Mexico says. We all know who runs Mexico. And the Federalist has it right. The Federalist has it right. Mexico is complicit in the LA riots, and there should be consequences. So you add in the red-green axis, the red being the Marxists, the green being the Islamists, and we're off to the races. Something we've been trying to warn Americans, and you, my listening friends, have been very well aware of this and educated on it and educating others, and I thank you for that. But as you well know, most of our churches in America are asleep, and they are compromised, and they have bought into interfaith dialogue and ecumenicalism, and they bought into Marxism, which is why I had to write the book and came out in 2018, Marxianity. They've bought into open borders. They bought into the idea of social justice. And they've bought into the lie of Islamophobia when you speak truth about Islam. And so America has really done it to itself. And it's really sad to see folks like you, me, my family, your family, and friends who are aware, who are awake, to see us have to suffer because of the foolishness of our elected officials, many of them, and the foolishness of our police departments, many of them. I have an article also at worldviewreport.com, and then we're going to go to Michael Yon. I have an article over at the worldviewreport.com today on why cops are quitting. Why cops are quitting and what to do about it. Now, this comes from the Law Enforcement Today. Law Enforcement Today. Why cops are quitting and what to do about it. This man says, with over 32 years of experience in local, state, and federal law enforcement, let's witness firsthand the decline in morale and resources across the police departments nationwide. Well, guess what? Guess what is in that manual, that U.S. Army Unconventional Warfare Manual? Demoralize the police. Demoralize the military. What do you know? And how has that been done? By local people. Police chiefs. Now, there's some good police chiefs. I know some of them, but they're not too many good ones. Most of them, the good ones, have been put out to pasture. They don't want the good ones. They want the ones that are easily controlled, because most police chiefs are politicians, hired by politicians, and the politicians dance to the tune of their money people. So most of your police chiefs are no good, or they're, at least if they're not rotten, they're just ineffective. They're ineffective because they're controlled. That's why I prefer sheriffs. Not that all the sheriffs are perfect, but I prefer sheriffs because there's a little more accountability to the people. But many of our police chiefs have been demoralized. Their ranks have been demoralized. Many of the good guys have now retired. They've left. They've gone into private security. They've gone into corporate security. They've gone into maybe a whole nother line of work, landscaping. All kinds of things they've said. I'd rather go do this. Painting houses, carpentry. And here we have a guy with 30 years experience saying that police departments nationwide have been demoralized. Well, that is in one of those steps we went through last night. By design. This is all by design. Not happening in a vacuum. Isn't it interesting that they are doing this now that our police across the country have been demoralized, and in many ways the numbers decimated. You see, when Biden came into office, there were approximately 1.4 million sworn officers in the U.S. 1.4 million. Today, that number has plummeted to 700,000. Now, I'm not the best guy at math, but I think that's a half. That's half. 7 times 7 is 14, right? No, 7 times 7 is 49, but 7 plus 7 is 14, right? So that would make sense that if you had 1.4 million, 700,000 times 2 is 1.4 million. Have I my math right on that, guys? I think I do. So are you telling me there's been that big of a cut in our police? From 1.4 million to 700,000 since Biden? Now it's a perfect time to launch a war inside America. It's a perfect time to begin World War III in America. But hey, don't listen to Brannon. He's crazy. He's over the top. Really? I'm pretty good at what I do. I've been doing it a long time. I learned from some very bright people how to connect the dots and study the worldviews and the philosophies and the ideas and to watch the trends. And all of our gifts and abilities come from the Lord. I pray for wisdom. I pray for discernment. I pray for understanding. That comes from the Lord, particularly when you ask for it. The Bible says so. He who wants wisdom, let him ask for it. So you can't brag in that. But it is true. This broadcast, we're in the top 1% of podcast downloads now. You know why? Because we don't do a silly rip and read like Fox News and most of them and sit on the couch and talk about stupid things. Like today, I walked through the room while having my morning coffee before I let Dolly out, and some guy named Ducey, I guess that's Steve Ducey's dad, Peter Ducey's dad, he's Steve, was walking through a park with some guy named, started some barstool, Portnoy, I don't care what his name is. He eats pizza around the country, I guess. He goes to pizza places and eats pizza. And he was walking to a dog park with him in Miami. I'm thinking to myself, the world is on fire. World War III has started in the U.S., and they're talking about pizza and dog parks. That's Fox News. And that's about what most of the average American can handle. That's about right there, folks. That's about it. And then we'll break for news and tell you a little bit about what's happening in L.A. And then back to the couch talk. Back to the couch talk. Because that's about all most Americans can handle. An inch deep and a mile wide. They've been dumbed down through America's government schools. They can't handle too much. And many of them have put a governor on their own brain. Just like you put a governor on your golf cart or your go-kart for your kid. When you got your kid a go-kart, you put a governor on it because it could go 40, but you didn't want them doing 40. You only wanted them doing about 15 miles an hour. So you put a governor on it. Well, the average American has put a self-imposed governor on their brain, and they've chosen to be stupid. They just chose. They just said, I want to be stupid. Ignorance is bliss. I want to live blissfully. I want to golf. I want to play sports. I want to watch games. I want to get fat. I want to eat processed foods. I just want to be a glutton. I want to be a simpleton. These are biblical terms, by the way. Glutton, simpleton. They put a self-imposed governor on their own brain. And anything that goes above that governor, like, I can't hear that. I can't hear that. I don't want to know that. And so most Americans have no idea World War III is full underway. But they have no idea World War III is going now in America. And who told us it was going to happen? Oh, let's see. Michael Yon. Gordon Chang. He said, hey, when the CCP decide to launch this thing, don't be shocked they carry out biological attacks, attack the power grid, and poison water. And now we have the commander of Edwards Air Force Base, the general, saying, hey, when China goes after Taiwan, the first thing they're going to do is put down the power grid. Oh, and wait a minute, biological attacks by China. You're kidding me. The second CCP-tied people were just caught Sunday coming into the U.S. with a biological weapon. Don't listen to Brannon. It's over the top. We got to go watch some football. Really? Here we go.
I'll tell you one little quick story. We had a Worldview Weekend client who lived in California, lost their house. Very wealthy guy. He didn't use Bitcoin. He came over here, drove to Arizona with $286,000 worth of his gold because he had no money and no house available. His bank was shut down because he couldn't have access to his bank account.
Was this during the fire? Was this during the fires?
During the fire. Didn't have his driver's license. He lost it. The state wouldn't give him a new license because he had no active mailing address. Real mess. So he came to Arizona to buy a house. He's moving everything over. He said, the only thing I got in my possession that I can get liquid with right now is my gold. I gave him a check for $286,000, and guess what? I didn't need his social, his driver's license. Sort of smiled, and I said, I know you and Brandon talked about how this worked, but boy, this is great. I feel good. I got my money. Nobody bothered me, and I'm protected, and it's private.
Just simply go to worldviewgold.com, fill out the form, worldviewgold.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. worldviewradio.com. War correspondent Michael Yon is one of the voices that has been warning for some time, not only on this broadcast, but on Brandon House Live at night. We've been interviewing him for a very long time. Remember, he's also one of the guys that flew over Colony Ridge in a helicopter with our buddy Todd Bensman, who's been with us so many times in our studio at our Worldview conference. Todd is now the top advisor to Borders Art Tom Homan. I've been texting with him the last 24 hours. And Todd and Michael flew over Colonial Ridge or Colony Ridge in Texas. So big, you had to fly over it with a helicopter. And yet there are people on the ground in Texas saying, oh, that's not true. And yet it's nothing but a big old compound of cheap structures and houses you can buy if you're an illegal invader, apparently, at really high rates. And they just keep, I guess, defaulting and selling the same piece of property over and over 5 or 6, 7 times. I know some guys in Memphis have car lots like that. I'm not kidding you. I've talked to him. I know one of them. I know he owns a car lot in Memphis. He'll sell sometimes the same car 7 times. He'll sell that car, hold the note on it. They make payments to him at a high rate. And then as soon as they default, wham, he goes out there and has it repossessed and sells it to someone else. Sell the same car 7 times. I think that's what they were doing over there. I don't know. That's what I heard. People would get in there, couldn't make the payments. Wham! They take that house back and sell it to somebody else for a while. That's what I read. That's what I heard. But we were told, oh, that's crazy talk. But you could fly over that thing with a helicopter. There's an invasion in the country. They're not here by mistake. They're planning something. They're getting ready for something. And the CCP, they're here. And they've been brought here through, I think, Department of Homeland Security, Biden's group, along with the United Nations, through the Darien Gap. Michael Yon knows all about that. Down on the Darien Gap and the Panama Canal for the longest time. Clarion voice, crying in the wilderness, telling Americans they're trying to bring people into the fish tank. They're going to put fish in the fish tank that don't get along. That's the goal. That's how they can bring down America. Joining me now is Michael Yon. Michael, what do you make of my opening monologue today?
I mean, it's accurate. You know, I just put on Substack just 30 minutes ago, Paul Harvey from 1965. If you just read that or listen to what Paul Harvey said in 1965, you pretty much know what's going on. I mean, there's a few details you might not know about the riots, of course, in Los Angeles, but the morphology is right there, and it's perfect, right? If I were the devil, Paul Harvey came up with that in 1965. It's been a classic. People have about once a year, I'll listen to that because everything I need to know is right there. Where did he get that from? Probably the Bible. I mean, because it's straight from. It's exactly what's happening. For instance, the primary weapon against the United States and many of our allies is actually intoxicants, right? It's actually alcohol, prescription drugs, various sorts of dope. Then you get, people like Doper Joe Rogan and Elon Musk smoking dope together in front of tens of millions of young people. And keep in mind, Joe Rogan's Mr. MMA guy, so he's a fighter. So the young guys who want to do things like that, which is very good to do, any sorts of sports or activities like that, where you not only learn how to defend yourself, but it's fitness. I mean, it's incredible. But then that sort of people watches him, and Joe Rogan, who's very successful in whatever it is he's doing, smokes dope in front of him. And then I have people that say, well, I do MMA and I smoke dope. It's like, listen, you've already lost the war if you continue to do that, because these people that are coming across our border, I can get people to defend their bongs much faster than I can get them to defend their borders. If I talk bad about dope smoking, they come out fighting, telling you how dope smokers never do anything violent. That's the alcohol. And I'm like, well, actually, that's not true either. But at the end of the day, our border's wide open. And we have people that are so confused and looking at their chicken wings and that sort of thing and not paying attention to that we have actually been invaded. And it's not that we will be invaded. We are invaded, right? It has happened. to the tunes of tens of millions. We don't even know the numbers, right? And I was just chatting with Tom Homan the other night as well about, these sorts of things. I mean, introducing him to Anthony Rubin, actually, who's been researching this quite a lot. And as you know, our mutual friend Todd Bensman, he's extremely knowledgeable in this. We just flew over Colony Ridge again a few weeks ago. Todd and I did. And we went over back with the helicopter. One of our friends, Dave Cannon, takes us up there sometimes. And you can see Colony Ridge is still growing. Now, since Trump has been inaugurated, the construction has slowed down at Colony Ridge, but the mass deportations are not happening. Watch how the various groups are attacking ICE now, waving Mexican flags, waving foreign flags. We have we have invaders. We have to always start with the right words, right? We've talked about this before. The atomic structure of truth and lies is words, right? And our enemies instantly try to hijack the words. They'll call invasion migration. They'll call invasion a crisis, or a war a crisis. That's like the Germans calling D-Day, a beach crisis. It wasn't a beach crisis. We were invading, parachuting people in, airstrikes, landing on the beach, naval gunfire. That's what it was. And that's what's happening to us right now, right? We are being invaded. Still, the architecture still in place. Now, the flows have greatly diminished since Trump's been inaugurated, but the flows are still happening, and the mass deportations are not happening, and they're having babies. So we've got invaders who are not U.S. citizens, who we don't even know who they are, because many of them slipped in without getting any names on any records, and many others came in under false IDs. Huge numbers of Chinese. Mike Flynn sent me something yesterday about 300,000, I believe 300,000 military-age male Chinese are in the country now. And based on the things that I've seen, that sounds like a credible number. For instance, I know that about at least 40,000 Chinese came through the Darien Gap, because I have records of over 40,000, 40,400 and something. But I'm missing many months of that's just during Biden. Just during Biden, more than 40,000 Chinese came through Darien Gap. That doesn't include the larger numbers that actually come through. They just fly up to Mexico on vacation. They skip the Darien Gap and all that. They go to Cancun or Mexico City, or that sort of thing. And then they just literally go on vacation, package vacations, and then they go up to the United States. And that's one of the ways they can get their visa easily in Mexico. If you come on a group tour, you can just go on vacation and then just slip out the back door to Texas. Or many of them come over, Tucson and that sort of thing. I've been across the entire southern border looking at this. So then you have Chinese that come across from Bahamas. They got a huge port there, by the way. You got Chinese who come back and forth from Canada. The Chinese and the Indians are going to end up fighting over Canada. That's clear. In fact, Indians and Indians are fighting each other now, like Sikhs are fighting Hindus, and that's pretty well known in Canada. Americans are missing that. It's pretty well known in India as well, because the Sikhs and the Hindus are going at it. And not an open street combat, but there's been some deaths and that sort of thing, and then of course the Chinese and the Indians will always go at it, or at least in our lifetimes, and so we see these things popping up everywhere, but you kind of have to go there to look. For instance, right now in Ireland, there's a lot of things going on that are not hitting the news. And a lot of street fighting in various places. There was just a mass murder in Austria within about the last 24 hours.
Yes. Multiple kids killed, like 10 children killed, 12 or more injured in critical condition. Ireland, we showed video yesterday or last night, riots over there related to immigration. You're right. It's like this, the world's on fire. But let me ask you about the
I have a solution.
You have a solution? What's that?
Testosterone and kicking these people out. And
so men returning to be masculine men and standing up.
That's right. That means putting down the bong and stop telling me how smart you are and how people that drink alcohol are bad too. We get it. We get it. Put down the drugs. Put down the pills that are prescribed, that are mood modifiers, sleeping pills, pep pills, whatever they are. Put down the alcohol. Clear your mind and get serious. Because we are under attack. We will be destroyed. I mean, utterly destroyed. I mean, killed. I was in Hong Kong when that happened. The way the Chinese took Hong Kong was they did it mostly through migration, right? They did it mostly bringing in Han Chinese over a period of years, Mandarin-speaking Chinese. They took jobs as teachers, politicians, policemen, and professors, that sort of thing. They had a Confucius Institute there, that slowly but surely, they rewrote the history books because that's the game plan, of course. And then in 2014, there was the Umbrella Revolution. I didn't go to that because I was in a coup in Thailand that year. But then in 2019, I was getting ready to go to India because of some Naxalite stuff going over there. And instead, I saw the Hong Kong thing rise. I saw that burst out again. So I went to Hong Kong instead, stayed for 7 months. I was there until they kicked me out. But the way the Hong Kongers explained what happened, it was crystal clear that it did happen, was that the Han Chinese, CCP, Chinese Communist Party, just slowly invaded the bathtub. And then in that one last fell swoop in 2019 and 20, they took it. And who sold them the weapons? For instance, the 4 water cannons that came from Germany. I've never seen so many American flags in my life than on the streets of Hong Kong. They were desperate for American help, but some of the munitions that were being sold to the Hong Kong police were coming from Florida. I told the Hong Kongers, photograph everything from every angle, every munition you find. There was munitions at my feet. I was getting hit with those rubber bullets and that sort of thing. We were getting gassed constantly. I just put on X today, just 30 minutes ago. It's a tear gas video from Hong Kong. It was just clouds, like cumulus clouds of tear gas. This went on for months and months and months. Many people were arrested. Many people were injured. Not many were killed. Many did disappear off to mainland China, though, or somewhere. We don't know where they disappeared. We think they went to mainland China. But at the end of the day, the way that China mostly took that was through migration, quote unquote, weaponized invasion, right? They're doing the same to Taiwan. They're doing the same to Japan. They're doing the same in Panama. And some Panamanians see this and they go, oh, you don't know anything about Panama? I just spent a year running around Panama. Don't tell me I don't know anything about Panama, right? I'm not an expert on Panama. I didn't grow up there. I spent over a year there running around looking. What I do know about is war. And I look at this all over the world, whether it's Ireland or Luxembourg or Netherlands or Austria. I go to all these places. Just in the last 4 years alone, I've been to 30 countries looking at this, right? 99 in total. I know what I'm looking at. And I know that China is slowly taking Panama. And I mean, they're doing that through slow migration, right? Now, I'm not talking about the first Chinese that were there in the 1840s and 50s. There's about 7 or 8 layers of Chinese that have come in, for instance, as an example, to Panama. Some came on the first railroad project, 1840s, 1850s. They were there in the 18th. So, and then there was another layer that came when the French were building the canal, and then another layer when we were building the canal. And then there's other layers that came at different times. And now we're on about the 7th or 8th layer, arguably, whether it's 7 or 8. But in any case, the latest layers don't even get along with the earliest layers in general. They try to co-opt them and that sort of thing. I see the same in Guatemala. I see the same in Honduras. I see the same in Mexico. It's the same story everywhere, right? The Chinese are slowly, they're not the only ones doing it, but demographic warfare is quite real, and they use anthropological warfare intensely. For instance, right now, the 7 tribes in Panama have joined together. That will never happen without outside. I've seen this all over the world. Whenever you see a bunch of tribes joining together, it's because some outside influence pulled them together.
Well, let's talk about that when we come back, because now it seems as though the Marxists and the Islamists are pulling together. We're seeing their flags in the street of LA. What do you think will happen Saturday? And are we setting up for a multi-year war in America? We're not changing courses. Now, we are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our WorldviewTube mobile app.
And welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. My guest, Michael Yon, his website is Michael Yon, Y-O-N, michaelyon.com, or Michael_Yon, Mike on X. It's at Michael_YON if you want to follow him there. You go to worldviewreport.com, our daily aggregated news site. Here's an article. Worrying footage shows anti-ICE protesters doling out tactical gear in Los Angeles. Tactical gear. We also, as I said, had somebody come in from China now, at least the second person in a week, carrying a biological agent. Okay? Now, I want to go real quick to a document we discussed 5 years ago. It's called Unconventional Warfare, put out by the U.S. Army. It was redone a few times. The latest version is 2016. We discussed it 5 years ago. And you can see these steps for insurrection, okay? It's entitled Preparation of Revolutionary Cadres and of Masses for Revolution. How do you do this? We went through that last night in detail for an hour and a half with Trevor Loudon and on some of the platforms. Logan, did you say it was going up 500 views about every 2 minutes? The clips were going up about 500 views every 2 minutes. It was going viral, which is good. We're educating people. Michael, I want to go through this real quick with you. Back to the U.S. Are we about to see a multi-year war in America, or is this going to be something that calms down and life goes on?
It's clearly picking up. That's why I returned to the United States in 2020 with the explicit. I was writing it and saying it on interviews. When I returned I'd spent many of the previous years, like 20, off in wars and that sort of thing. And I returned to the United States because I could see that we were going into civil war. That's why I returned to the United States in August of 2020. I went straight to Portland. I went straight out with Antifa and was watching their riots in front of the ICE building in Portland. I was actually there. They would attack it. They were attacking the courthouse there in Portland as well. They were, the downtown Portland is basically gutted. Basically the druggy Antifa, almost every single one of them is heavily on drugs. And the rest of them are somewhat on drugs. I mean, literally, I'm not saying that to exaggerate or to underline a point. It's just a statement of 24 karat truth. I mean, when you go out with Antifa, I've spent a lot of time with Antifa in Hong Kong, in Portland, and San Francisco, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. a lot, Atlanta, different places. I've been out with them in many, Colorado. I've been out with them in many, many places. They're all druggies, right? And so those are the kind of people that they want to recruit because they're expendable, they're suggestible, and they're basically knuckleheads, right? And so they're just useful idiots at the end of the day. Now, you see what you mentioned about earlier, the merger. The merger will almost always be done if it's these very disparate groups. It'll be some outside force merging these. For instance, the 7 tribes down there in Panama merging. And by the way, I go out with these tribal people all the time. I like them. They like Americans. They're not our enemies. You know what I mean? By any stretch at all. I feel extremely welcome. I get messages from them every single day. And, a lot of them are farmers. I get along with farmers and everywhere, and so, but somebody has pulled them together along with Soontrax, which is actually a communist organization, a communist labor union, which is heavily influenced from Venezuela, Cuba, and China, and also Russia, but especially, China, Venezuela, and Cuba. And so the 7 tribes have united with Soontrax, right? Not that they are natural allies. It's just they're allies of convenience, and people are packaging them up, right?
And that's what's happening here in the U.S., isn't it?
Exactly. You package them up. And then, later on, you can get them to fight each other as well. It's so simple. I mean, actually, if you don't keep them packaged up and keep finding ways to keep them together, they'll just naturally start fighting each other. And so, anthropological warfare is fascinating. I mean, when you talked about unconventional warfare, I was a Green Beret. That's something we studied intensely, actually. The 7 phases of U.S. sponsored unconventional war and this, that, and the other. The Green Berets out there listening to this, those are in particular the guys you would want to talk with. Not so much, say, Delta or SEALs or Rangers or whatever. This would be Green Beret territory. I think some SEALs do it now as well, though. And so they might be good to talk with. It would be, traditionally it's been Green Berets and CIA that do that sort of stuff, right? So
let's look at this real quick then. Let me just rattle them off real quick because I don't want to do a whole show on just this. This satisfaction, this is the base, the bottom line of this ladder. For prepared, it's called preparation of revolutionary cadres and of masses for revolution. This satisfaction with political, economic, social, administrative, and or other conditions, national aspiration, or desire for ideological and other changes. So again, you make people very dissatisfied politically, economically, etc. 2, creation of atmosphere of wider discontent through propaganda, lies, and political and psychological effort, discrediting the government, police, military authorities. That's what we see happening right now. That's exactly what's going on right now. 3, assassinations, forming variable public opinion, advocating national cause, creation of distrust of established institutions. That's what's going on now. And of course, they've done it by corrupting some of these institutions, by forcing the good people out, stripping them of their morale, so the good people leave, and you fill them up with people that have drug backgrounds and drug problems of their own, because we're looking for a warm body to patrol and give out tickets. And so now you're hiring people that should never be cops, right? So you're breeding a distrust. Interesting. You've gotten the left to distrust the government with all of your lies and propaganda that the real problem in America are the white European Christian males, etc. But now you got many people on the conservative right not trusting the military, not trusting the government, the FBI, the CIA, even your police, because we have hollowed out these departments and we have put in revolutionaries. And now the right doesn't trust these institutions either. And of course, how do you have a society when nobody, very largely, trusts any of these institutions anymore that you have deliberately done this to? That's part of this goal. Then the next one, increased agitation, unrest, and disaffection, infiltration of administration. That's what I'm just saying. Infiltration of administration, police and military and national organizations. And then you have slowdowns and strikes. Wait till that happens with all these SEIU guys. But notice what I just said. You infiltrate the police and the military and the national organizations. And of course, we have a lot of police chiefs wanting to say, we can't be too tough on these people. We can't be overreactionary. They've turned your police into really community organizers. Infiltration of foreign agents and agitators and foreign propaganda material, money, weapons, and equipment. That's what's going on now. That's what's going on now. How do you think these people got here? It's foreign agents, it's infiltration, agitators, foreign propaganda material, money, weapons, equipment. The next one, recruitment of like-minded individuals and others, indoctrination and use of these organizational purposes. Okay, recruiting right now. They're on the internet doing it, and they're getting ready for something big this Saturday. We got the map. Everybody knows about it. Then you have penetration into professional, social, political organizations, into all parts of society. You now have Maxine Waters and members of the House today and the Senate giving press conferences saying that what's been going on in LA is peaceful. They're literally at the podium in DC saying the LA riots have been peaceful. The next one, spreading subversive organizations into all sectors of life in country and region. Next one, establishment of formalized resistance elements, appeal to extraterritorial support infrastructure. Let me stop right there. Extraterritorial support infrastructure. That means other territories. Now you got Mexico. The Federalist has a good article today, Michael, that Mexico needs to take some responsibility here. You have the CCP involved here. So I'll keep going through this list real quick, but respond quickly to what I'm laying off from this Army manual from 2016 we discussed 5 years ago which has far more relevance now.
Well, I mean, it was just as relevant then. Back then, they were setting it up for now. I mean, I returned to the United States in 2020 because this was so obvious. In fact, it was obvious to a lot of us like 30 years ago. It was obvious that it was slowly, but these things take a long time to plant, right? The seeds take a long time to grow. And, we plant mustard seeds, they plant poison ivy seeds, but the poison ivy can grow quite slowly, and our mustard grows slowly as well. We've got to keep, basically one of the things that we have to do, my first line of attack and defense is get our people off drugs. Every time I come back to the United States, it's quite obvious. There's drugs everywhere around here. I walk down the street, I smell dope on people. I meet people in restaurants, they got like a glaze over their face. They haven't, combed their hair in days, and they're working in a restaurant, that sort of thing, right? I mean, this is quite clear. And that is a weapon. And keep in mind, we were all born into information, very sophisticated information operations. Our great grandparents were born into those. So we were born into a jungle like a gazelle amid tigers, and you're expected to understand how they hunt and we don't. You have to study these things. You have to work your way through this. And first you have to clear your mind, right? The Bible is a good start. Just read Paul Hart, that 1965 If I Were the Devil that I just put back on Substack just like an hour ago. Just go through and listen to Paul Harvey. 1965, he says it clear as day, right? What they will do to first affect our mind. The highest form of warfare is information war. A subset of information war is psychological operations. The grease and the fuel of psychological operations is intoxicants, always has been, right? There's nothing new about this. For instance, it wasn't something that was discovered 5 years ago or 50 years ago. This was discovered. This is in the Bible. You know what I mean? This goes way back, right?
Yeah, indeed. In fact, let me get to this one step. It fits with what you're saying. Intensification of propaganda, increase in disaffection, and psychological preparation for revolt. That's what you're talking about. We don't have an affection for our country. We haven't taught kids to love and respect and honor the history and heritage of our nation and those who have sacrificed to give us liberties and freedoms and those who have paid the ultimate price, shedding their blood, that we might have liberty and freedom. And so we have disaffection for the great American experiment. And now we have psychological preparation for revolt. And part of it includes, we have people, as I said, members of Congress. Listen to what Maxine Waters, crazy Maxine, said today. Listen to this.
The protests, and even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence.
Well, there's no violence. And now she's saying, now she's gearing them up to respond when martial law is called. And President Trump, right now as we're on the air, minutes before we went on the air, is talking about invoking the Insurrection Act. I mean, this thing is playing out exactly the way that you, Leo, myself, and others have been talking about for a few years. I want you to respond to that hard break, computer take it away, and then I'll be right back with Michael Yon. You can follow him on X at Michael_Yon. That last name is Y-O-N, at Michael_Yon. All right? Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk with your host, Jim Schneider, coming up at the top of the hour on over 100 outlets nationwide. Crosstalk is America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s. All right, at vcy.org, vcy.org. And folks, tell everybody about this broadcast, this network, and what VCY and Worldview Tube are doing, because you won't hear this in a lot of places. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHousebg.com. All right, folks, you can go to nokings.org, nokings.org. Now, I'm not endorsing this website. To the contrary, I'm warning about it. They have a map out, as we showed last night, showing where they're supposedly going to be having these rallies all over the nation, upcoming calls and training. And they're saying on June 14th, we rise up. Find an event near you on the map below or for a special note on Washington, D.C. Apparently, they don't want to do anything on D.C. because that's where they're going to be having the big parade on Saturday. So they're telling everybody to go over to Philadelphia. All right. Well, they got a map, and they're going nationwide with this. Now, I'm going to ask you directly again, Michael, is this going to be a multi-year war in America, or is it going to be a one-off? Yes or no?
Oh, clearly, multi-year.
Multi-year. How long? How long?
Oh, I don't know. These things can go for 10 years. They can go for a generation.
Is this Civil War? I'm going to ask you fast questions, fast answers. Civil War or World War III? Has World War III already started? This is part of World War III? Or is this a civil war? Or is it a civil war as part of the destruction of America with World War III? Are they combined or are they separate?
No, they're combined, clearly. And clearly, keep in mind, you can have concentric or, say, mixtures of wars. Like revolution and civil war, those things go together, right?
Right.
They're not always the same, but anyway, they tend to run together. But clearly, World War III is also it's percolating right now. It's not boiling over the top, but clearly we're on the cusp of actually nuclear combat at any moment. Mike Flynn, he's only at that level. He's one of the only super serious people about this stuff, right? Mike Flynn is the best guy to ask about this.
Yeah, he and I were texting with each other the other day about some of this. He's going to try to come on when he gets back from a trip. Are we going to see, I hate to ask this, are we going to start seeing Americans killing Americans in the street, whether it's rioters killing police or police being forced to kill rioters? What is going to start being more and more of a trigger point? Are we headed into Weather Underground type days from the 60s and 70s? For those of us who remember that, have we now turned many college students into terrorists by brainwashing them and getting them to jump out on the streets and be a part of this?
Well, if our enemies get their druthers, we'll have huge amounts of Americans killing Americans. I mean, that'll be quite clear. And then obviously these huge amounts of people that have come in from all over the world, whether it's Somalia or Afghanistan or so many different places, they're going to be in their little tribes, right? And some of them are quite large. The Chinese are going to stick generally with the Chinese, right? And actually different groups of Chinese, like the Fujianese will be with the Fujianese, right? And so that's how these things always go, or strongly tend to go, right?
Okay, so are we going to see the CCP military-age males activated? We saw them come in. You know about it. Gordon Chang knows about it. Michael Yon knows about it. Anthony Rubin knows about it. Todd Bensman knows about it. They're not sitting here to become fat and lazy and to assimilate. They're here for a period of time. Is that time now? And how do you see the CCP military-age males operating? Do they operate overtly or covertly?
Well, they didn't come here on vacation, right?
Right.
I mean, and they came in huge numbers, right?
Right.
So it's way beyond mere spy level, right? We're way beyond, hey, it's a bunch of spies. There is that, of course, but there are clear military here, right? And in Canada. And the Canadian military is openly trained with the PLA, with the Chinese military in uniform. China has trained in Canada with the Canadian Army. You can't make up this stuff in uniform, right? And so, they're all around us. You look at the islands, whether it's Antigua and Bahamas, so we have to first take care of ourselves, which means pulling out of these disparate interests that don't really interest us much and focus on our strength, our inner strength, our country, right? We have to secure the Panama Canal. That's this important to us. Panama Canal is absolutely vital to us. We have to secure things.
The Panama Canal is a major artery. Without it, the CCP can choke us all with just-in-time inventory.
Many things. Not only that, but they can use it as a launch point for military strikes against us as well, right? And keep in mind, they can also cut off Japan. The top 3 customers through the Panama Canal are United States, China, and then Japan. And they'll cut Japan off of the United States in a heartbeat, right?
Now tell me this: Are we going to see? You think a 9/11 style event, an October 7th type event? What, as we see the Islamists and the Marxists merging and they're waving their flags, wearing their communist flags, wearing their keffiyehs? Are we prone to seeing a 9/11 type event? Are these riots being used to give cover to somebody to bring in something very, very, very dangerous and deadly into major cities because the police and everybody's so distracted and the cameras are also distracted? This is the cover for a bigger attack. Is that possible?
They don't need any more cover. I mean, they could have entire armies within the United States, and in fact, they do, right? And so they don't need any more cover. That's done. We are invaded, period. Weapons are everywhere, right? It's not a matter of whether or not they're sophisticated or not to know how to shut off our grid. They can shut off our grid. If they want to shut off our grid, I'm sure they can do it through software, or they can do it physically by interrupting physical infrastructure, right? Our water as well, they could poison it. You see the potential biological weapons that have been brought in to attack our agriculture, apparently. There's so many ways to do this. Remember, I usually don't talk about sparks because sparks are irrelevant. That's like which bottle rocket's going to start the fire. It's not about which spark is going to start it. It's about conditions, right? Once you've got a dry forest and you haven't cleaned up the underwood for, 20 years because of whatever reasons, finally you get lightning, or you get a campfire, you get a child with a bottle rocket, or you get arson, or something starts the fire, and then we blame it on that arsonist, or we blame it on, but in reality, it was all about conditions, right? So conditions have been intentionally being set for many years. Our food resilience is greatly reduced. Our food resilience is incredibly reduced. Obviously, our law enforcement resilience is greatly reduced. And now we have these people who are illegally in the United States because they are actual invaders, wartime invaders, are applying for jobs in law enforcement.
I've got less than 60 seconds for the music starts. How should people be preparing? Individuals right now.
First, anybody who's doing any sorts of drugs or alcohol or pills in your family, it's time to stop. Stop it, right? It's up to you to stop it. I don't want to hear about crying shoulders and all this stuff. Stop it. We got to get everybody with a clean mind to think about these things. We have to testosterone up and defend ourselves. At the end of the day, it comes down to us. It's us defending our country. Remember, American, I can, right? And you can. Everybody can. All that alcohol, all those pills, all those other types of dope, flush them down the toilet. It's done. We have to get serious. It's time for heroes to do hero stuff.
Hold right there. Michael Yon, Michael_Yon. That's Michael. Thank you, folks, for listening. Take care. Joining me back on WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube is Michael Yon. Michael, just a couple more minutes here on our side. We just let our 73 stations go, but we're still back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube. Michael, do you think President Trump understands what we've been talking about today? He seems to be surrounded by good people and very troublesome people. He didn't know that Putin's helicopter was being attacked by drones. The media had to tell him. He apparently didn't know that Ukraine was going to start launching what they were doing against Putin's aircraft. Is he in the dark? Does he really understand? And of course, he said today that, Californians should be happy I sit in the National Guard and restored peace. No, is he not watching the news? Is he not aware? Is he aware of what we're talking about, or does he need a serious first class education like you're giving our audience today?
I can't read his mind, but I can read his actions. I mean, we can see that his actions are not what need to be taking place. For instance, he's not dismantling the United Nations. And I'm not sure which is the biggest enemy, China or the United Nations. And I've written 3 books about Chinese war against the United States and Japan, right? I've written 3 books on that. They're the books that are only in Japanese. They're not in English, because I've been working to wake up Japan for years. We have not dismantled the United Nations. Who's even the biggest enemy for us, United Nations or China? I know China is a huge, very important and existential enemy for us, as is the United Nations. We have to defund the United Nations. Whatever turns brown, mow it down. Whatever's still green, chop it down, right? And so we have to defund them, let parts turn brown and chop it down, and then go for the green and chop it down too.
So what about his declaring an insurrection act in California? Is that playing into the leftist hands, or you think that's something he should do?
That's a difficult question. I don't trust Trump. I never have. I don't trust Biden. I don't trust any of them, right?
Why don't you trust Trump? That's interesting.
Well, the death jab. I mean, I've said this so many times. I've said it so many times, and like thousands of times. Years ago, before the first election, Newt Gingrich called me up when I was in my office in Thailand looking for support for Trump. This was before the first election. And of course, I'm never going to vote for anybody with the last name Clinton at this point. Certainly not anybody Obama or Biden, right? They're just not my cup of tea. When I was standing against Abbott here in Texas, people are like, who do you want? Beto? Because Beto obviously is something you step in on the sidewalk. But no, obviously you don't want Beto. But I kept telling them, Abbott is World Economic Forum. He is not conservative. He is an insert. He is an implant. And that has proven to be true,
100%.
unequivocally true.
100%.
Everybody can see it now. But keep in mind, for several years, I had to fight the headwinds of, who did you want? Beto? No, that's the red pill, blue pill. It's not a paradox. Red pill, blue pill. You're taking a pill from a guy you just met. You don't even know his last name. And it's from the same guy. What's in the pill? Why would I take any pill from some guy I don't even know? Why do I want any pill anyway, right? And so it's a false choice, is what I'm saying. It's a false choice.
You sound like you sound like G. Edward Griffin. G. Edward Griffin has been telling me this for decades.
G. Edward Griffin. I just got a message from his assistant Carlene last night. I'm going to be on with G. I tell you what, if anybody hasn't read The Creature from Jekyll Island, you need to stop what you're doing and read The Creature from Jekyll Island from G. Edward Griffin. I mean, I wish I would have read that when I was 14 years old. You know what I mean? And the only reason I read it was because Anthony Rubin kept telling me to read it. Anthony, he's over in England right now, tracking it. Anthony's unbelievable. And so, and when I read that book, I was like, I should have read this a long time. Every once in a while you pick up, pretty often for me, here's a couple of books you should read. These are called, let me tell you about these books, by the way, real quick. These are called, but G. Edward Griffin, highly recommend G. Edward Griffin. But this is a book from 1841 called The Memoirs of Popular Delusions. Have I got that straight? Or no, it's sideways.
Yep. No, we got it.
And the Madness of Crowds from 1841. From Charles Mackay. You got to read this book. It's 2 books, actually. Well, it depends. You can get it from Amazon. It's just 1 book. But my 2 here, they came out in 1852, but it was originally published in 1841. And when you read these books, I've read them before, but I just got these old copies because I like older copies better because I know they're not edited and they have the old illustrations and that sort of thing in them. But you will see that there really is nothing new under the sun. There really is. Right out of the Bible again. There's just so all these things that you see now, they've all happened before. We're not the first ones, and we can survive this. Keep in mind, in the United States, in the 1860s and the 1870s was extremely bloody in the United States, right? Much more than it is right now. The United States was extremely bloody, and I don't mean just the Civil War. I mean, the protests back then, it was guns up, man. I mean, they were going at it. I mean, President Grant, he unleashed the army on the Ku Klux Klan, the whole thing. Totally game
Wow.
on. And go ahead, sir.
Well, that's our music. The computer's going to take it away. Folks, follow him on X at Michael_Yawn. Michael, thank you so much. War correspondent Michael Yawn. Talk to you tonight, folks. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.